Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee with me, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, as well as the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube channel, and the host of the Blended podcast, which we are now turning into a nonprofit looking to make a visual impact on stages and in audiences for industry conferences. So lots going on. We are working on so many things. 2022 is going to be absolutely amazing. And I can't wait because I've got some new announcements for you. We've got some new live shows that are coming up in January that you are not going to want to miss. I mean, if you're watching Log Tech Live, you're watching Coming in Hot, you're watching Thoughts and Coffee, you're watching Topple. Um, I mean, we've just got some good, really, really, really good shows to add to that roster, and I can't wait to share that with you. All right. So, what is happening? Last weekend was my birthday. I spent my birthday with some family on Saturday. If anybody follows me on Instagram, it's Be Victorious on Instagram, and I posted a photo of me with my nephews and showed you what 41 looks like. Very proud to be 41, and I don't mind telling anybody that. And then I think everybody, I mean, 9.9 billion, was it million or billion? No, million people watched Adele on Sunday night, and I was definitely one of those people. She's one of my favorites, and she put on a really, really, really good show. So if you watched it, let me hear from you. I want to know. I posted a tweet that said, "I'm not crying, you're crying," because I was crying all over the place. But anyways, all right, let's talk about what is happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain. So the newest episode we've got out there right now that dropped yesterday is episode 230 with Sifted. They are changing the game on last mile delivery parcel data. And they are bringing in scorecards so you can decide internally and give your data externally to your partners so that you are making better, smarter, data powered shipping decisions. So if you didn't go and check that out, go and check that out. It's over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast page. It's right at the top because it's our newest episode. Plus, we just put the link in the chat for you as well. What else is happening? Oh, we're going to talk about that one in a minute. Also want to talk about some upcoming events. So Topple is every third Wednesday. So I believe it's coming up is it coming up tomorrow? I think it's coming up tomorrow. And they're talking about purpose, planet, and profit with Topple. So all about sustainability. Kim Rath has been seen on CNBC just in the last couple of weeks talking about sustainability and blockchain. So you are not going to want to miss that because it's always a great discussion. Thursday, I'm going to be running a panel at the Blue Sky event for Procurement Foundry all about sustainability with one of my favorites, Francis Edmonds. So if you're going, I can't wait to see you there because that's going to be one hell of a discussion. And then we've got Manifest in January. I'm going to be live in person in Vegas, January 25th to 27th. I'm going to be doing some podcasting there. I'm also going to be running a panel discussion as well. And then, of course, we've got Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson that happens at 10 a.m. Eastern, the first Friday of every month. And we've got Coming in Hot coming up this week actually as well, because otherwise we would be doing it live on Thanksgiving, US Thanksgiving. And so we wanted to make sure that you could catch that. So those are the events that we have coming up. And last but not least, I do just want to give a plug to the LinkedIn learning course that I released back in September. It's called The Fundamentals of Sustainable Supply Chains. We're getting some amazing, amazing feedback. So would love to hear from you. Hopefully you can take the course and would love to hear your feedback on that as well. A couple of other things to talk about. We've got our giveaway. So whoever is engaging with us the most on the Let's Talk Supply Chain social media, you will get your very own Let's Talk Supply Chain mug. So keep engaging with us. We announce the follower of the month at the end of the month. So probably the Thoughts and Coffee that happens on November 30th. And yeah, so you're going to want to get your mug, just saying. And then the other thing is, we've got our supply chain dictionary over on our shop at letstalksupplychain.com, but we want to give it to you for free. So if you're on Instagram and you DM talk, TALK 1, the number 1, to the Let's Talk Supply Chain Instagram, you can get our supply chain dictionary for free. And so I was going to bring Audrey Ross up on stage because she is our guest for today, and she is just coming back. There we go. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Great to see you. I love the earrings,
Thank you. I love
as
these things.
always. As
Yeah,
always. So tell everybody who you are, and then we've got so many things to talk about
so many
today.
things. So many things. So I'm Audrey Ross. I'm running around here in Toronto this morning. You know, supply chain can be hard, and that's what I work in. I'm the logistics and custom specialist in-house at Orchard Custom Beauty. We're an award-winning business-to-business private labeling company that specializes in cosmetics and beauty tools. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. I'm also, well,
Awesome.
I mean, I should say I'm working on the blended pledge as well. That's been a really important initiative that we've been working on. I mean, I think it really addresses some key gaps. So I'm excited. I love working on that.
Yeah.
So
And we're going to have more announcements coming up
yeah,
on that as well. We've got some amazing folks in the audience here on Let's Talk Supply Chain. And then over on my personal page, we've got Jeffrey, we've got Demba, we've got so many people joining us, Mohammed, and so great to see all of you. Well, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about, because you and I are also part of the DEI initiative with JOC,
yes,
and we are coming up to the last couple of days, right? Because
yeah,
I think nominations close on November 19th. So if
yeah,
you know of an organization or you work in an organization that takes diversity, equity, and inclusion to the next level, or even takes it seriously,
yeah,
we want to hear from you. We want you to nominate those organizations so that we can honor them and really showcase the impact that they're driving within this industry. So we're going to be giving this honor out at TPM in March. And we really, really, really want to hear from you and want some nominations. We want to hear the incredible work that organizations are doing in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, AJ, can you put the registration link in the comments so that people can get access to that? Anything to add there, Audrey?
I just think it's really important. I think our industry has typically been, sort of historically had, sort of a more homogenous culture, for a variety of different reasons. And I think as we move into the 2020s and beyond, we can see so many benefits to having an inclusive workplace, to having people not, to having people be able to show up to their work that they love. People love working in supply chain and transportation, in trucking and in air cargo. People love it, and being able to have a workplace culture that allows them to show up as themselves, without having to hide, obviously not maybe some extreme stuff, but not being having to hide like who they are, like this culture of having it like, oh, you have to cover your tattoos, oh, you can't wear bright pink lipstick to work, oh, you're like, we don't want to work like that in an industry that we love. So I think this is an important recognition. It's coming from obviously the Journal of Commerce, IHS Market, or like very well regarded sort of journalist observers in our industry. So I think it's a tremendous honor, and I can't wait to see who wins, and hopefully all of you will be submitting nominations.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Amanda, who is joining us on YouTube. I'm a suburban housewife that just wants to learn more about how my stuff gets to my door. Thanks for all the information. Well, we're going to be talking about that and so much more in just a few minutes. We've got a lot to cover. So, the other thing that I wanted to bring to light So let's talk supply chain Asia Pac. So everybody knows that we franchise to Asia Pac. Jonathan Kempe is our fabulous host over in Sydney, Australia, covering all of the hot stories in supply chain within that region. And literally yesterday, he just dropped this episode with Allison Cusack, who is a really good friend from of both of us. And she just recently released an article all about her challenges and harassment in the industry. And I think, that on the backs of what we're talking about in diversity and inclusion, how important it is that we honor those that are bringing that to light and making it an important factor within the workplace. This is also another very important story. And I want to congratulate Allison for being brave and sharing her story, and then also for Jonathan for bringing it to light and giving her the platform to be able to showcase what she's been through so that we can all learn from it. It's not about the blame game. It's about listening and leaning in to understand, learning about her story, because there's so many other people within the industry that could have gone through this or maybe gone through this. I know I have gone through my own being in sales in this industry. And so, Audrey, tell us a little bit more about this because we've been following this for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah. I think, I think it would, Allison was featured in an article or wrote an article that was published. And I think it's important to read that. And I really appreciate that Jonathan did the interview, though, because after reading her words, but then being able to hear her share her story, and I think you're right, and about a lot of issues that come into play just in our workplaces and in our environments, stopping to listen to what people are saying, right? And not leaping to conclusions or not putting our own preconceived notions in front of that, but just listening as to how hard that experience was for her, how challenging it made it wove itself through every other decision that she was making around the time. It's a nuanced interpersonal relationships. It's a nuanced situation. It's not straightforward. But I think being able to read her words on it and to then hear that interview that was done, I think it just was so impactful for me. And I can't say enough about it. If you haven't listened to it yet, head over and listen to it and read the article and show some support, because that's often what happens, is that someone will go through an experience like this, and because it makes us all feel uncomfortable, we want to hide it away and not acknowledge it and just pretend like it doesn't happen. And the sort of more we can call attention to it, the more we realize that so many other people have gone through similar or situations, and that if we keep tucking these things away and not wanting to be challenged or be uncomfortable, then it's going to be a very small place that we live in.
Absolutely. So I encourage everybody to listen to it. I just tried to post the link myself, but apparently I'm not very good at it. So AJ, I've sent it to you in the private chat. Please do what I couldn't do, is post the link in the chat, because we really want you to go and listen to it. There's a variety of different places that you can listen to that particular episode and show some support for Allison. Rhonda says, so sad to hear about harassments continuing in the workplace. After years of advocacy against it by educating folks about what it actually is, you'd hope folks would get the message that
Yeah.
it's not acceptable. And I think the more that we talk about it, and this isn't a recent event, this is something that has happened a few years ago, but something that she has just decided to bring to light and wanted to talk about. And I think if we can open up the dialogue and continue the conversation, we can make that impact. It's going to be small. It's going to be slow potentially, but the more we talk about, the more we shine some light on it, we can actually make some good progress.
Yeah.
All right. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is we posted a article yesterday, or a link or a picture, I can't remember, on what is happening in LA and Long Beach. And this is kind of going to go to Amanda's question. I am just looking it up right now because I know I have it. Here it is. All right.
No, Amanda is not going to have to swim to the vessel to get her Black Friday sales.
Audrey's making reference to our Friday funny.
Yeah.
We posted that on
It's a pretty
Friday,
good
and
meme.
people really like that one. Way to go, AJ. So we posted this yesterday. 82 vessels waiting outside of LA and Long Beach, which is crazy, 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 crazy. I mean, look at all those dots. There's a lot of containers, but there's really nowhere to put them. I
Yeah.
don't know if any of you guys caught the 60 Minutes on Sunday night where they talked about supply chain. There's a lot of people talking about that particular episode because they really talked about everything in the supply chain that is clogging up,
The
from
chain.
drayage to trucking to not just the vessels, not just the ports that are creating that jam, creating that log. So what did you think when you saw this?
Oh my gosh, it's I almost don't even want to go on LinkedIn sometimes because it's like between your posts and like Lars Jensen, like some of our other connections posting, I'm just like, and then I'm posting like, oh, my boat was on fire 2 weeks ago. That's my, so
Well, this is a picture of a comment that I took from the Let's Talk Supply Chain
oh yeah.
Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
wondering why there's no prioritization of the essential goods on these containers rather than FIFO or who pays the highest expediting fees.
Yeah, but what's essential? Because my lipsticks are essential to my business.
Well, COVID, we're kind
No,
of
but
wearing masks. I mean, how is
but
your
I mean,
lipstick
people
essential?
ask this too, but like perishables do get some sort of preference, right? If you have perishable goods, like they tend to get offloaded differently, is my understanding. But yeah, what's essential? And if it's essential, why are you moving it across the ocean, knowing that it's going to pile up?
That is true. That is true. So a couple of the other comments that I didn't take pictures of, we should be investing in opening a second port at least temporarily, a little further
Yeah.
north, or even make a deal with Mexico.
Oakland,
The Pacific coastline is big and there are train rails.
Ensenada. Yep.
So what do you think about that comment? Because I was like, if there is an opportunity for another port to open, a port needs a variety of different people with a variety of different skills that they may or may not have.
America has like 4 ports on the west, 5 ports, 6 ports on the west coast. They don't use all of them. Like I've never given an option of like, oh, take it to Seattle.
Right. It's true.
Why? Right? Like I have a bunch of forwarders. And at this point, I'm hawking my goods everywhere. So no one says like, oh, we'll take it to Seattle. We have some stuff that goes to San Francisco now, and it's like, oh, you want to take it to Oakland? And you're like, well, it seems closest. Like,
well, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, what they're talking about, going into Mexico and things like that, that has a whole nother connotation with compliance and paperwork. Like that would create all sorts of issues. But what you're talking about in utilizing other ports, I mean, we posted something on Instagram the other day that showcased the ports in Texas as an option. I know that the other ports, in Florida are also vying for position to be considered one of the ports that they want the steamship lines to use. So I think the conversations are happening.
Yeah.
I don't think they're happening as fast as everybody wants them to be, because obviously with 82 vessels in the port of LA and Long Beach and that long delay from not being able to bring the containers in, I mean, it's a much bigger challenge than I think a lot of people realize that it is. There's a lot of smart people on it. And I think that, I think changes are going to be made. I think the impact is going to be made. We just have to be a little bit more patient. And I think Christmas is going to be a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to say hi to Gary. We've got David, Audrey, Galit over on my personal LinkedIn. Joe is there as well. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Vishal as well. Thank you so much. Now we've got to get into we haven't even gotten into our supply chain stories, and I've added a few more this morning.
Of course.
So I think we need to get into them fairly quickly.
Succinct comments.
All right.
No.
So the first article that we're going to talk about. Everybody knows I love the hustle. So this one came from the hustle, and it says, to reinvent work, we have to destroy the clock. Destroy the clock, question mark, right? I mean, what do you mean by destroying the clock? So in this article, it says that Elon Musk was working 120 hours a week and then totally got burnt out. So he brought it back to 80 hours a week. And then Iceland, they work 35 hours a week and feel like they're very, very productive. What they're saying in this article is for us to work smarter, maybe not harder, is to forget the clock and work at our best hour. And what that means is my best hour is not necessarily your best hour, and vice versa. So giving us the autonomy to be able to work at our best hours, to be our best selves and show up as our best selves for the company. You and I have had conversations about this, right? Because you just read the 4-Hour Work Week. So tell me, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a huge fan of doing work, not being present, like the versus presenteeism and you monitoring how many hours and where I'm sitting, right? If your company doesn't understand the work that you're doing or how you're doing it or what the objectives and goals and timelines are, then I think that's a bigger problem. And I mean, I can appreciate we're having a bit more flexibility. We work a lot with Europe. I do a lot of business, before 8 a.m., before 9 a.m. Technically I'm 9 to 5, but like if I have to talk to Europe at like 7:30,
so if you're starting your workday at 4 a.m., I mean, why are we asking people to work till 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. just because we have to get our 9 to 5 in? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. If you've done all your, like, I've got the projects out, things are booked, paperwork's done, I think, that appreciation of the employee, like that they're, committed, passionate, organized, and get stuff done, is a conversation, right? Like my cousin does a lot of stuff in this in HR. And it's, like, why are you babysitting your employee? Can I go to the bathroom? Can I take an appointment? Can I have a day off? But why? Like if you're having a professional level communication and relationship, then you're talking about work, right? You're talking about the objectives, the timelines, and getting it done. Not, oh, did you take this appointment for an hour and a half?
Yeah. So, I think the only thing that it might cut into is like team meetings. Like, how do you find in that kind of scenario, how do you get everybody together for a particular meeting? And I'm not saying that that's going to happen all the time, but I guess if you give them advance notice, everybody can shuffle.
If everybody knows it's a Wednesday lunch meeting, then everybody's there. That's part of your responsibility, right? Is to be there when.
I'm not taking a 4 a.m. meeting that day. Anyways, all right. Next up, we are talking about logistics because we've got 8 minutes left, people. There's so much to talk about. So the Wall Street Journal is reporting on the fact that American Eagle Outfitters is buying Quiet Logistics for $350 million. This is after the acquisition of AirTerra, which is a delivery startup that they bought in May. And the reason why they're doing this is because they want better control over their supply chain. Like, let's talk about this because they're competing with they're talking about supply chains competing with supply chains. It's no longer brands, it's no longer products, it's supply chains competing with supply chains. So in this article, American Eagle, by doing this, is saying they're competing with the Walmart supply chains. They're competing with the Amazon supply chains. And it's absolutely critical that we wrap our heads around this in retail because supply chain is the backbone of a lot of organizations and a lot of businesses. What do you think?
No, I think you summed it up. I think it's kind of a shock for us to think like retailers are now buying logistics companies, but after the past year and what they've been spending and how the market has been, like, that's our new world. So,
and vessels, I mean, I don't know if some of these large retailers are going to go back to steamship lines or they're just going to have their own vessels from now on. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But one thing in this article that I love, it said supply chain is a consumer-facing activity which takes consistency and control. If that one point does not drive it home about how important supply chains are to
Yeah.
the future of e-commerce, to the future of retail, to the future of business and organizations, I don't know what does. Because at the end of the day, competing on, quality, sure. But now you're competing on supply chains. And that, my friends, is an absolute game changer and kind of a mic drop moment. Just And Amanda, she's killing it over on our YouTube page. Supply chain is everything. Even I figured that out. A simple suburban housewife. Thank you, Amanda. It's taken a while for some people to really come around to it, but we definitely appreciate that and appreciate you for understanding. I mean, now everybody's talking about supply chain, so it's amazing. One more acquisition that I do want to talk about because this literally came up just a few days ago. It looks like Bloomberg has been given the okay to purchase IHS Market in a deal worth $39 million. No, billion dollars. 39.
Billion.
I was going to say million. $39 billion
Yeah.
on Friday after they had to win over the US antitrust approval. And so get ready, hold on to your pants, people, because IHS Market, Journal of Commerce are definitely stepping it up and taking it to a whole nother level, coming under the Bloomberg banner. Thoughts?
Just can't wait to see what happens next.
I know, right? Well, Peter has given us the 5-minute warning.
I know.
Matthew says, I love the speed and efficiency at which you cover these topics. Thank you. Sometimes I feel like we're going a little bit too fast and I need to like rein it in. But at the same time, there's a lot going on in supply chain, and I want to make sure that we cover as much as possible for you. And there's a reason why Thoughts and Coffee is being portrayed as the fastest 30 minutes in supply chain on a weekly basis. All right. So, our last article talks about the food supply chain. Again, we go back to the hustle and what happens to the nation's food supply in the event of a California crisis. So, apparently, 2/3 of US fruits and nuts grow in California. And what they're talking about is whether it's a problem to have so many eggs in one basket. Now, we've seen this, right? We've seen this happen with manufacturing in China. We've seen what happened during the pandemic. And so, if we think about this, and I want to show you this particular um,
Graph. Yeah.
graphic because it really showcases how much actually really does come out of California. And with all of the disruptions in supply chain, trucking, in particular, would affect this particular supply chain. But you've also got weather that has been disrupting California quite a bit over the last couple of years as well. And so this creates a bit of a challenge, but a new conversation within the food supply chain that needs to be had because so much does come out of California. So when you saw this, I know this is a very short article, but what did you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few weeks ago or months ago we talked about almond shortages in California. California's built up, as China has a specific infrastructure and has traditionally been the sort of fresh fruit and vegetable source for a lot of America. And their weather is typically outstanding. I mean, it's consistent, long months of a lot of sunshine. You're a Canadian in Los Angeles when you're pointing out the weather because they're like, well, of course it's like this. And you're like, it's so nice. Um, and I think it's a challenge for Canadians too, where it's like you're so accustomed to how can you grow fresh fruits and vegetables in the ice and snow, which we were about to start getting snow here in Toronto,
Mhm.
and looking at innovations like that stacked farming, greenhouses, container farming. So I think it's an opportunity for innovation. In a way that can also support the knowledge and expertise that California's been demonstrating.
Absolutely. Are you talking about the factory in the box that we talked about last? You're not suggesting we do farming in a container like we were
It's,
talking about the factory in a box last week.
yeah, it's I've seen up in I think it's Nunavut, instead of because doing a typical greenhouse is usually like a glass, so they're doing a contained container to
Huh.
protect it from the weather. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of innovation that can come down the pipe to really help with the distribution that obviously having all your eggs in one basket in California could, could showcase as a problem. So one more question for Amanda before we go. Do we need to buy and stockpile what we can now?
Yeah.
How worried should I be? Suburban housewives worry about everything, usually the wrong thing. Love the show. Thank you, Amanda. Audrey, I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, no, your regular supply should be pretty consistent unless you have a favorite product that you can't live without, and then of course you keep two on hand.
Yeah, and get your holiday shopping done
Okay, that's
now,
done now. Yeah,
because if there's something specific that you need for your kids or you need for your
yeah,
family, you want to get it ASAP because it actually
yeah,
might not be on the shelves anymore. Anyway, that is it for us today. Audrey Ross, thank you so much for joining us. Next week, I've got Catherine McCleary from RFP 360 joining me on the show, and we've got some really cool articles lined up for that as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you next week.